Good morning. You are joining us for a measured and, well, a strictly objective examination of current global events. We are looking at a maritime environment that is, increasingly complex, highly contested, and fraught with operational ambiguity.
Right. It is an environment that requires careful, impartial analysis.
Exactly. So, before we begin, this deep dive is brought to you by our sponsor, ProWave AI. And the comprehensive analysis you are about to hear is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
And it is essential, I think, to understand the origin of the intelligence we're utilizing today. Stylo News is actually the consumer version of the Stylo Intel Ops software.
Which is a pretty powerful tool.
Highly powerful. That enterprise-level architecture is currently utilized for strategic operations by government, military, and international business entities.
So this means you, the listener, have unique access to an analytical tool designed specifically to support global decision makers in navigating these exact types of crises.
Precisely. And today's mission is an objective intelligence update.
The title of our briefing today is Iran Intel Update: Maritime Warfare, Proxy Threats, and Gulf Instability. The region in focus is the Middle East, specifically centering on Iran, and the date is 14 May 2026.
Our objective here is to impartially examine the patterns of military, maritime, and diplomatic events in the Gulf over, well, the past 2 weeks. We will identify the key decision makers involved, analyze the prevailing social media sentiment, and outline possible future courses of action. We will present these facts in diverse perspectives without political bias,
ensuring a neutral assessment of a highly volatile theater. So let's establish the context here. Imagine you are navigating a massive cargo ship carrying, say, 2 million barrels of oil.
A very standard operation.
Right. You are transiting international waters, relying on centuries of established maritime law to ensure your safe passage. But suddenly, an unauthorized toll booth appears in the middle of the ocean.
And it is heavily armed.
Yes, heavily armed, demanding immediate registration and payment to pass. If you refuse, or if you fail to recognize the authority of the booth operators, well, your ship could be seized, or worse, fired upon.
And today, that isn't just a hypothetical scenario.
No, it is not. It is the immediate operational reality in the Persian Gulf.
It is a reality that fundamentally shatters the predictability of global trade. I mean, we rely on unhindered maritime passage to keep the global economy stable.
We really do.
And right now, that assumption of safety is facing its most significant challenge in recent memory.
So this toll booth analogy we just mentioned perfectly describes a massive strategic shift currently underway in the Strait of Hormuz. We must examine the overarching policy changes driving this.
Yes, the policy framework is critical here.
Because since late February 2026, the United States had been engaged in an offensive military operation designated Epic Fury.
Right.
However, on May 5th, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the conclusion of that offensive phase. They are moving the U.S. military into a framework named Project Freedom.
Which is a very specific, carefully chosen designation.
Exactly. The administration states this is a strictly defensive posture designed to unblock the strait and allow the free passage of vital cargo.
The shift in terminology is highly deliberate. By emphasizing the protection of items like fuel, fertilizers, and humanitarian aid, Washington is attempting to frame its naval presence not as military hegemony, but as a defensive mission serving essential global interests.
And concurrently, Tehran introduced its countermove. Iran announced the establishment of a new maritime regime they are calling the Persian Gulf Strait Authority.
This is your toll booth.
Right. They are demanding ships register and pay to transit the Strait of Hormuz.
The creation of this authority is a fascinating bureaucratic maneuver, really.
How so?
Well, Iran is attempting to formalize its control over one of the world's most critical energy choke points by masking a military blockade as administrative law.
Oh, I see.
They are framing it as a regulatory requirement for transit, effectively asserting total sovereign control over an international waterway.
But policy declarations require physical enforcement.
Always.
And this is where I find a glaring contradiction in the stated operational postures.
Go on.
If the United States has shifted to a purely defensive posture aimed only at escorting neutral shipping, how do we explain the confirmed reports from May 8th? The U.S. military actively disabled 2 Iranian-flagged tankers, the Sea Star Thur and the Sevda.
Yes.
I mean, disabling a sovereign vessel in contested waters sounds inherently offensive, doesn't it?
That contradiction is the defining tension of the current operational environment. To understand it, we have to look at the mechanism of international sanctions.
Okay, let's break that down.
From the perspective of the United States Central Command, disabling those vessels was a defensive enforcement action. The U.S. maintains a naval blockade intended to restrict Iran's economic and military capabilities.
By preventing specific vessels from entering Iranian ports.
Exactly. So Washington views disabling a vessel attempting to run that blockade as defending the integrity of international sanctions.
While Tehran views the exact same event as an unprovoked attack on its sovereign property.
Right. Both sides operate under a narrative of defensive self-preservation.
That makes things incredibly complicated.
It does. The U.S. is defending global navigation and enforcing sanctions. Iran is defending its sovereignty and its economy against what it terms foreign interference.
This dual narrative makes diplomatic resolution incredibly complex because neither side believes they are the aggressor.
And those competing narratives inevitably lead to kinetic military action.
Which brings us to the physical reality on the ground, or rather, on the water. Looking at the events between May 4th and May 11th, the theater escalated dramatically.
It certainly did.
Tehran unleashed a massive, multi-layered strike package directed against the United Arab Emirates, specifically targeting the Fujairah oil zone, with additional impacts in Oman near Buqa.
And the intelligence indicates this wasn't just a simple harassment operation.
No, it was significant.
It was designed to overwhelm air defenses. The defensive batteries intercepted 12 ballistic missiles, 3 cruise missiles, and 4 unmanned aerial vehicles.
Wait. I need to pause on the details of that interception because the source material highlights something astonishing here.
The defense systems used.
Yes. Those intercepts were achieved using Israeli-operated Iron Dome systems deployed within the Gulf, protecting the UAE.
It is a remarkable development.
Just a few years ago, the idea of Israeli military infrastructure actively defending Arab states in the Gulf would have been politically unthinkable. How did that partnership evolve so rapidly?
It is a profound geopolitical anomaly that requires context. This integration is essentially the mechanical evolution of the Abraham Accords.
So moving from diplomacy to actual defense.
Right. What began as diplomatic normalization has been forced by mutual security concerns regarding Iran into active military interoperability.
I see.
The UAE recognized that its critical infrastructure required advanced multi-tier defense systems, and Israel possessed the technology and the operational experience.
So the shared threat environment accelerated a partnership that bypassed decades of historical animosity.
Exactly. That drastically changes the defensive architecture of the entire region.
It really does. But let's look at the targets themselves. Why does a strike on Fujairah matter to you, the listener?
That's a vital question.
Fujairah sits on the eastern coast of the UAE. It is strategically vital because it is a bypass route located completely outside the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. It avoids the choke point.
By striking there, Iran is sending a message that utilizing alternative routes to bypass their toll booth will not guarantee safety.
And following that strike, we saw a direct assertion of maritime control.
On May 8th and 9th, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, seized the oil tanker Ocean Koi in the Gulf of Oman.
They accused the vessel of attempting to disrupt Iranian oil exports.
And simultaneously, drone attacks targeted a U.S.-flagged commercial ship anchored near Doha, Qatar.
Now, when you look at the scale of these attacks, a critical question really emerges.
Which is?
Why not just mine the Strait of Hormuz entirely?
Ah, right, if they want to cause disruption.
Exactly. Why use a few drones here, seize one tanker there, and launch a specific missile package at a bypass route? Are they trying to close the strait, or is this a different strategy entirely?
Well, according to the intelligence, they are not trying to close the strait, because closing it completely invites overwhelming, unified global retaliation.
Right.
This brings us to a crucial military concept called escalation dominance.
Think of it like a high-stakes poker game.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Iran wants to consistently raise the bet, imposing massive economic pain on its adversaries, but keeping the wager just below the threshold that would cause the United States and its allies to flip the table and launch a full-scale war.
So it's a strategy of calibrated, profitable disruption.
Exactly. By utilizing selective missile strikes, intense GPS jamming, and fast boat harassment, Iran degrades the waterway rather than blocking it.
And the economic impact of just degrading the waterway is staggering.
It is. When 1,500 commercial vessels are idling, waiting for safety guarantees, shipping insurance premiums skyrocket.
Right. A war risk premium is applied to every hull, which means millions of dollars in extra costs per voyage,
And those costs are immediately passed down the supply chain.
inevitably increasing the cost of global energy, fuel at your local pump, and everyday imported goods. Iran inflicts maximum economic damage while maintaining deniability of a total blockade.
It is a highly dangerous balancing act. And the shockwaves of this strategy are activating secondary conflicts across the broader Middle East.
We are seeing regional ripple effects that appear disconnected but are happening simultaneously. For example, in Bahrain, authorities recently arrested 41 individuals allegedly linked to the IRGC.
Those arrests highlight the acute internal security fears within the Gulf Cooperation Council.
Fears regarding Iranian covert networks operating within their sovereign borders.
Exactly. The GCC states are deeply concerned about internal sabotage aligning with external maritime pressure.
And at the exact same time, Israel conducted preemptive airstrikes in southern Lebanon, resulting in 24 fatalities, heavily targeting Hezbollah infrastructure.
Which is another massive escalation.
It is. When I look at these events, Bahrain arresting operatives and Israel striking Lebanon simultaneously, my instinct is to look for a mastermind.
It's natural to assume a coordinated plan.
Right. Is this evidence of a highly centralized proxy war being orchestrated minute by minute from Tehran? Or is this localized chaos erupting because everyone is taking advantage of the distracted environment?
It is actually a hybrid model, which is
Yeah.
precisely what makes the threat environment so difficult to map.
How does that work?
Well, Iran provides the long-term capability, the funding, the weaponry, and the broad strategic intent to its proxy networks.
Okay.
However, the mechanism of a proxy war requires delegating tactical autonomy. A local commander in Lebanon or an operative in Bahrain doesn't call Tehran for permission before every maneuver.
Right, they act on overarching directives.
Exactly.
We even see this hybrid pressure spilling into international diplomacy and sports, which seems bizarre at first glance.
The FIFA situation.
Yes. Iran has formally demanded visa guarantees and specific diplomatic treatment from FIFA for its delegation attending the 2026 World Cup in the U.S. and Canada.
They want assurances regarding officials who may have links to the IRGC given the heavy U.S. sanctions.
It demonstrates how holistic this conflict has become.
Right. Geopolitical warfare isn't restricted to kinetic military action. It utilizes bureaucratic leverage, international tribunals, and global sporting events to assert legitimacy and test the boundaries of international sanctions.
And amidst all this friction, Pakistan and Qatar are actively attempting to broker a ceasefire between Washington and Tehran.
Pakistan's involvement is particularly interesting here.
It is. They share a border with Iran, but why step into the middle of a U.S. Iran naval conflict?
Well, Pakistan's motivation is rooted in the mechanics of regional economics. Islamabad views a full-scale U.S. Iran war, not just as a security issue, but as an existential economic threat.
Yeah.
Millions of Pakistani citizens work in the Gulf states, sending vital remittances back home.
Right, that income is crucial for them.
Furthermore, Pakistan relies heavily on energy imports transiting through these very waters. A prolonged closure of the strait would devastate their domestic economy.
Which drives their urgent mediation efforts alongside Qatar. Now, these physical attacks, proxy maneuvers, and diplomatic negotiations are immediately broadcast globally,
In real time.
which transitions us to a completely different but equally volatile battlefield, the information war.
Social media in this context isn't just a communication tool.
No, it functions as a highly sensitive financial seismograph.
The speed of information and misinformation creates immediate physical consequences.
Exactly. A single, unverified video posted on X showing a drone launch or tanker explosion can trigger algorithmic trading bots in financial centers to spike global oil prices.
Before any human analyst can even verify if the video was filmed today or 5 years ago.
Panic causes as much economic damage as a physical naval blockade.
It really does.
When we examine the sentiment on X, the anxiety regarding these economic ripple effects is palpable, and the digital sentiment is starkly divided.
Let's look at the different narratives.
On one side, there is heavy, sustained criticism of the IRGC. A major trending topic is the accusation of environmental terrorism.
There are reports alleging that the IRGC has been deliberately dumping oil into the Persian Gulf.
I have to question the logic here, though. How does environmental terrorism through oil dumping even work as a strategy?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, doesn't that devastate Iran's own coastline and fishing industries?
Well, tactically, it is a scorched earth mechanism of area denial.
Ah, I see.
By intentionally creating massive oil slicks, you physically foul the water. This clogs the intake valves of commercial ships and naval vessels, making the area unnavigable,
Oh, wow. So it forces ships into narrow, predictable corridors.
where they are easier to target or harass. The long-term environmental damage to their own coastline is considered an acceptable strategic cost to achieve immediate maritime disruption.
Conversely, there is a highly active pro-Iran voice on social media framing the situation entirely differently.
Yes, the counter-narrative is very prominent.
These accounts portray the IRGC's maritime warnings and the establishment of the Strait Authority as justified measures of sovereignty protection.
They frame the toll booth not as an act of aggression, but as a necessary defense mechanism against Western imperialism.
An unprovoked foreign military presence in their regional waters.
And that division in public sentiment is accurately mirrored in international state media.
Reporting from Russian and Chinese sources has been highly critical of the United States' unilateral actions.
Agencies like RIA Novosti and various Chinese outlets emphasize the need for diplomatic solutions.
They criticize the U.S. blockade enforcement as illegal and highlight the severe economic risks to global supply chains.
Their narrative framing demands U.S. de-escalation as the prerequisite for regional stability.
So, this digital seismograph shows a world holding its breath, waiting for the next tremor.
It certainly does.
Based on the intelligence gathered, what are the key indicators our listeners should be watching for in the immediate future?
Well, the most critical immediate event is the impending Iranian response to the U.S. ceasefire proposals.
The ones currently being mediated by Qatar and Pakistan.
Exactly. Tehran's official reply will dictate the short-term trajectory of the entire Gulf region.
Until that diplomatic breakthrough occurs, the intelligence indicates the maritime environment will continue to degrade.
We should expect sustained electronic warfare.
Particularly widespread GPS jamming, which blinds commercial navigation.
Right. And we will likely see further harassment of vessels by fast attack craft and ongoing cyber and proxy pressure directed at the Gulf Cooperation Council states.
We must also monitor the broader geopolitical warnings. Russian President Vladimir Putin has explicitly warned about the global price of continued conflict in this region.
This signals that international patience with this level of economic disruption is wearing exceedingly thin.
If we synthesize all these developments, the intelligence points toward two primary divergent courses of action over the coming weeks.
The first path is a negotiated, albeit highly fragile, diplomatic stalemate.
Led by the regional mediators, Qatar and Pakistan.
Right. This would result in a temporary freeze of hostilities, allowing shipping to tentatively resume under an uneasy, heavily armed truce.
And the alternative path,
A sustained, low-level war of attrition.
which means no official declaration of war.
Correct. In this scenario, neither side officially declares full-scale war,
Right.
but the Gulf remains a persistent, normalized conflict zone.
We would see regular drone strikes, deniable proxy attacks, and the institutionalization of crippling insurance premiums.
Premiums that steadily, quietly bleed the global economy without triggering a unified military response.
The tension between those two outcomes will define the immediate future of global trade. And that concludes our objective assessment of the source material for today.
It's a heavy topic.
It really is. Now, dropping the anchor personas for a moment, it is always so fascinating to dive into these incredibly complex situations with you all.
The sheer volume of moving parts, the shifting alliances, the economic pressures in the Gulf right now is just staggering. It's a lot to process.
It certainly is. Attempting to understand global events without identifying the underlying mechanisms like escalation dominance or proxy autonomy, well, it leaves you with just a list of confusing headlines.
Absolutely. And if you want to be able to synthesize information like this for yourself, taking control of your own information diet, you really need to check out Stylo News.
Yes. As we mentioned at the top of the deep dive, this entire analysis was generated using their platform.
Stylo News is an app you can get right on your phone or your computer. It allows you to completely customize your own personal intelligence-style briefs.
Instead of doom scrolling, it pulls from hundreds of traditional news sources, plus real-time updates from X, and uses AI to filter out all the noise.
It gives you the specific insights you need to understand the world without the overwhelm. It really is a remarkable tool.
Having access to enterprise-grade analytical structures fundamentally changes how you process daily events.
So if you want AI-powered news on demand, tailored to what you actually need to know, subscribe to Stylo News. Just head over to www.stylonews.com.
We also love hearing from you. Please send us your requests for topics you'd like us to cover in future deep dives, and be sure to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms.
Before we sign off, there is one final concept from today's analysis that I find particularly compelling, especially when we consider the future.
Oh, leave us with something to think about.
Well, throughout this deep dive, we've analyzed physical blockades, warships, intercepted missiles, seized tankers, and physically dumping oil in the Strait of Hormuz.
Very tangible things.
Right. That is a very traditional 20th century model of choking off an economy by stopping the physical movement of steel and cargo.
Okay, I see where you're going.
But looking at the intense electronic warfare and the cyber threats we discussed today, it raises a vital question. As nations become entirely reliant on AI, interconnected cyber networks, and globalized tech infrastructure, will the blockades of the late 21st century be fought entirely without weapons?
Wow, that is a chilling thought. Will the next global choke point be a physical waterway or a massive data center?
Exactly. Imagine a blockade that doesn't fire a single shot to stop a physical ship,
But instead severs the satellite data required for that ship to navigate.
or freezes the digital currency required to pay the transit tolls.
It fundamentally changes the definition of warfare. It's a fascinating and, well, slightly terrifying thought to mull over.
It really is.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.